What is up, everybody? My name is Chris McLean. This is Hater Radio, a brand dedicated to college football. I'm just going to get right into it because I don't have much time today. I'm actually going to see the new Scorsese movie, but I got my Ghost shirt on. Happy Halloween, everybody, because I know most people will see this in the next couple of days and more than likely right on Halloween. So I'm just going to get into it. This is the Week 9 recap. Obviously a terrible day for Florida yesterday. It's just frustrating because, I was coming into the game. In my mind, I was like equating where this team was at to where Dan Mullen had the team at in 2018 to 2019. So thinking, okay, they kind of got waxed in the 2018 game against Georgia, and then the 2019 game they got it to a one-score game, and then the next year they smoked them. So I was like, okay, we're right in that progression. But obviously, each team, each game has its own development and its own thing, its own like type of story. And for the most part, this team has done okay so far. They're 5-3 after this game. It's just it's frustrating. I guess I'm mainly as a fan, and that's what we are. We're a fan-based analysis that we give. It's frustrating because it's I want the team to be better, and seems like in certain aspects they have been better. There's a lot of freshmen and sophomores out there. There are a lot of guys that are transfers that are trying to fill gaps that maybe haven't been as good as they possibly could be. And that may be the failing there, where other schools may have gotten better transfers. I mean, if you look at Florida State, they've gotten Keon Coleman, which has been a great wide receiver for them. But Florida's the ones they've gotten have done, there's some transfers have done well. Cam Jackson has been pretty good. The secondary pieces have been kind of and same with, you could say, the linebacking pieces that are the portal players, and the O-line players as well have struggled immensely. The right and left tackle for Florida, if it was Austin Barber or George, just completely olayed the entire game. I mean, it was they couldn't block Georgia's ends at all. And for a team that averages less than 2 sacks a game to have 4 is pretty telling. And I mean, that was the story of the game. And honestly, really, if you look at that second quarter where it should have been a first down, gets reviewed going into the second quarter, gets overturned. It's 4th and short. They run that ridiculous play. I mean, I don't know if it works in practice, maybe try it, but it's, you're going up against a really astute defense in Georgia. So it's really, I don't know. I don't know if that's the right play call. I think if you really are going to go for it there, you need to just go for the brotherly shove and just go for it and push him into it and hope that you get it. And if you don't, then at least you tried that way, which is seemingly a high percentage play. I don't know. It's just that play happened. Or let me get back into this before I tangented there on that 4th down play. That 4th down happens. But let me backtrack a little on that pressure that they were getting. Georgia was getting. There was a sack fumble as well that cut short a drive that was at the 50. So that's one fumble. They didn't recover. So that was the good thing, at least. Then the 4th down play, Georgia gets a short field, punches it in, 17-7. Next possession, literally like next play, sack fumble again. Georgia recovers, capitalizes again, another touchdown. And at that point, it was 24-7. They got a safety after a block punt, 26-7. And, the defense made some stops there where if the offense had just put up anything. I mean, like literally, if they had like gotten a field goal in a couple of those possessions, and specifically, I look at that last drive of the half where Ricky gets that big catch and they're at midfield and they don't get anything out of that drive. And that honestly, that was very disappointing because it's like, at least if they give some hope into the half, okay, we're only down 26-14. There's a lot to play for. Being only down 12 is not the end of the world. I know they hadn't been stopping them, but at the same time, they put the defenses in short fields multiple times. So it was, easy for Georgia to capitalize off that when they're only having to go 20 plus yards to get touchdowns. But no, it just was frustrating because the offense was not doing anything at all, couldn't put up any points. And even into the third quarter, defense was still making stops. And then it was like, they just were out there too long. The offense was not putting together drives at all. They finally put 2 drives together in the fourth quarter, but it didn't matter. The game was way out of hand at that point. They needed to put this stuff together. They had put 1 drive before those 2 touchdown drives in the fourth quarter. They put a drive that got to like the 20, and the 4th down play. I mean, Trevor Etienne is definitely, probably number 2 to Eugene Wilson as far as playmaking ability on the team. And you do want your playmakers to have the ball on a play like that, hoping that, a defender will miss. But I mean, it's tough because it's like Georgia's defenders don't miss much and they're really sound tacklers. So you're almost better off making that route just go towards the first down marker. I don't know. I get where the thought is there because it's worked. It worked against South Carolina, but this ain't South Carolina. Georgia is a much better team than South Carolina's defense. I think South Carolina's defense is like 100 plus in their defensive rankings. So, and Georgia's like first in plenty of rankings, most being 3rd down and 4th down stops, which they got plenty here. I mean, I know Florida actually wasn't completely terrible on 3rd down stops. I think they got our 3rd down. It was 4 of 11, which is still bad. It's and they were 0 for 2 on 4th down. So that's even worse. It just was frustrating. It really was because they only had between the 2 teams, which I'm amazed at this. Between the 2 teams, there was only 4 penalties. I know there were a couple declined, but 4 penalties between these 2 teams, that's surprising. I mean, just because Florida's had so many throughout the last couple of years. And, Florida had only that 1 fumble lost. And, those 4th downs, that 1 4th down turnover on downs was really, that was the difference, really. The second quarter where they don't make the 4th down and they sack fumble on like the very next play after they score that, and they scored right after that too. So there was like basically, I don't even know how you can compute that because it's like they stop a drive, so potentially could have gotten a field goal if they keep driving there. I know it's much more difficult to gauge that because it's an early stop on their side of the 50, but potentially you could say if they kept it going. And then Georgia scores 7, and then the fumble, and then 7 again. So, I mean, it's difficult to say what the swing was, but it was still that was basically the story of the game right there. And it seems eerily similar. I know they brought it up in the broadcast about the Anthony Richardson multiple turnovers resulting in scores near the end of the second. So it's frustrating to see that happen again when it's like, the first drive. I mean, the first drive was great. They were out there, they're moving down the field, they scored. Things were clicking. Eugene Wilson was making plays. It was, I don't know. It's frustrating to see go up 7-0 and then get outscored 43-13 from that point on. I don't know. I'm at this point, I'm at a loss for words. Really, I am, because I just wanted better. I wanted to see improvement because I knew. I mean, me and Ian both predicted that Florida were not going to win this game. I mean, I was being as realist as I could with my picks, and I knew that Florida was probably going to lose. I just didn't think they were going to lose in this way, and that's what was frustrating. I wanted them to be competitive. I wanted them to get the game into the fourth quarter, putting game pressure on Georgia. And I knew Georgia would probably win anyways, but I would have just wanted Florida to just, be right there and show improvement and look like things are progressing. And this not necessarily is a step back. It's just more of a it's just like why did we have to play so bad? I'm saying we, but I mean they. I know I should not say that, but why did they have to play so bad? I don't know. I mean, the offensive line is not there. They're definitely, they're not even close to being up to a like average SEC line, and they need to be that to at least have a chance. They've got to give the quarterback, some time, anytime to really make plays. I mean, even on like screen plays, they were getting snuffed out easily, like in a matter of moments. It was like the second they set it up, it was like, oh, they knew and they were right there to stop it. And then, there was no like fake screen to like, or like a fake to one side, go to the other, which I might help at least like slow down some of the pursuit in some way, but it didn't seem like any of that was in the cards. And then I guess one of my biggest gripes, just watching the effort, it seemed like the effort wasn't there. I don't know, and I can't tell. I don't know if it's just Georgia is that much more of a better team, which they probably are, but it seemed like the Florida defenders were slow to react. There was people falling all over the place. I know I heard the field was terrible, so that could be some reason for it. But I mean, there was a play I saw. It was on McConkey's long catch where the safety comes over. I didn't see exactly who it was. The safety comes over to make a play, and like, normally on that play, because the safety was there, if the safety's just running into it, the safety like blows up McConkey. And I was so pissed. I saw it this morning, and I was just like, I couldn't believe how in position he was to make a play. To like, that's exactly what the safeties does on that play. Kimber is playing it like he should, getting him towards the middle, and then the safety should just blow that up. And it either should be an incompletion, or if the safety's good enough, should honestly be a pick if he's in position. And he just like, you see him like diving for some reason. And I don't know if that was the field. I have no idea. All I just know is just what I saw. And then McConkey turns it into like a 60-yard gain, kind of schools Kimber there at the end with a little juke. And even Jason Marshall got schooled by McConkey too, where like McConkey catches one on, I think like a drag, and he stops and like turns around, and like Marshall is like so slow to react. I mean, I know this kid is good. I know Jason Marshall does have talent, but like just to be, I don't know. I didn't understand why he wasn't able to make that play. There was like 3 defenders nearby and nobody got to this guy somehow. I don't know. It baffled me yesterday. It baffled me today, seeing it again. It was just frustrating. It really was. And it sucks because it's like, I know they're at 5-3, and I'm trying to be as much as a realist as I can and not just let optimism run deep on me, because that's what I usually do. I try to give the optimist bent on things, but it's like, for right now, just it's a struggle. But I will say though, at 5-3, they have Arkansas next week. They should be able to win that one. Arkansas is a 2-5 team. They have 2 tough games after that, LSU and Missouri, both on the road, which I don't know who scheduled this, 2 away games at the end of the year right in a row. Like, who does that? I mean, like, come on, man. Figure this schedule out. Like, mix one of these road games like somewhere else. Like, I don't know. Florida's had Utah on the road, South Carolina on the road, Kentucky on the road, Mizzou, and LSU. So they've had 6 games on the road, and I think they only have 5 home games. And I know that happens because of the Florida Georgia game, but it's still like, man, that is rough. I honestly wish they had put the Mizzou game after the Florida Georgia game, because then at least like it's like, you know, a road game, whatever. If they had put in the Arkansas game later, at least I don't know, maybe put it after the Mizzou game, like sandwich in between Arkansas or between Mizzou and LSU. It seems like they kind of messed that schedule up. But regardless, if they can get one of, beat Arkansas and then get one of 2 of LSU, Mizzou, which is going to be tough. But I'm not the biggest believer in Mizzou, and LSU's defense can be had, so they can score points there. It just will be a track meet because I know Florida's defense has been struggling lately. They got blown out here by Georgia and then, gave up a ton of points against South Carolina. So they really haven't stopped anyone except for Tennessee for the most part. But I don't know. But if they get one of 2 there, get the Arkansas game, then they go into the Florida State game 7-4 with a chance to go 8-4. I don't think most Florida fans would have thought that would even be possible. And that is, you know what? I think if they can get to there, most people won't be mad. And even if they did lose to the Florida State, 7-5, considering that they won a decent amount of SEC games, which that would be, I believe it's Tennessee, Vanderbilt, South Carolina, and then if they win Arkansas and then maybe beat Missouri, that's 5 SEC wins. So 5 out of 8 is not bad, considering, the it's just got to find some optimism at least. I'm going to say that. I know I'm trying to be a realist as much as I can, but find some optimism there. But I don't know, just tough. It was very tough to watch this, very tough to go through this. But like I said, there's a chance to finish off the season strong. The recruiting is doing well. Number 3 in the nation. They just got that big D lineman McCray during the bye week. So maybe they can get this tackle Seaton. I don't know. He's getting a lot of suitors from other schools. So who knows? Okay, moving on to UCLA, Colorado. Um, I'm not going to dig Colorado's grave. It is what it is. But looking at their schedule, they have a really tough road for the rest of the year. I mean, it is remarkable how good the Pac-12 is this year. And they have Colorado State at home, Arizona at home, which Arizona we'll talk about later, but is very plucky and very, picking teams off left and right. Washington State is a tough team to play with Cam Ward. And then Utah to finish off the year in Salt Lake City. I don't see any win in any of those games. They're going to have to find a miracle in one of these to get to 5 wins. 6 wins is going to be like impossible. There's no way I see 2 wins out of these 4. They're definitely going to lose at least 3. And there's a like high probability of 4. But regardless, let me talk about UCLA because that's what we're here about. A lot of turnovers. I think it says Garbers had 1 interception, but I'm almost positive. Oh, that's right. What's his face? Schlee threw the other interception. Okay, so Schlee threw an interception, Garbers threw an interception, and then Steele uncharacteristically fumbled it twice. Once while they were about to score in the second quarter. Just remarkable game this team had because they're a very solid team. Garbers was great, was very efficient, got some yardage on the ground. Steele still had like 75 yards, but obviously didn't play as much because of the fumbles. And then TJ Harden came in to spell him, and he had a pretty good game, 78 yards. Logan Loya, whoa, man, that catch he had that on the sideline. I don't know how he got I believe it was his right foot down. He has his left foot about to go out of bounds, and he somehow manages to get his right foot down it was just amazing catch. And he had a great game, 7 catches, 111 yards. The rest of the receiving wasn't that great numbers wise, but they like spread the ball around. It looked like, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10 people caught balls. So that's a really good day at the office. And defensively, just, man, they were in the backfield the entire time. I think they had like 4 or 5 sacks. No, they had more. They had 5 sacks. Laitu Latu is a stud. If you don't know who he is, number 15 for UCLA. I mean, he is just a freak. And, this UCLA team, I know with Dante Moore, it was like they were trying to see if he could be the guy this year. And it just, you know what? It seems like it's a little too early for him. And that's fine. He's a freshman. Freshmen are going to make mistakes. There's very few freshmen that come in that actually perform up to a high standard. It's very rare. But defense is very strong. They can move the ball quite well. Garbers comes in pretty efficient, eliminates most mistakes. He did have the 1 interception, but Travis Hunter played a really good game, had 2 picks, especially both of those picks were pretty impressive picks. And, Garbers is done quite well leading riding the ship. They have a couple more games that are going to be difficult. They have Arizona State, Arizona in the next 2 weeks, which are very difficult games. And they follow that up with the USC game in LA, and then the last week against Cal. So tough couple of weeks. These Arizona teams are very, like I said, very plucky. If they can go 1-1 in those, I don't know, maybe they could go 2-0. It's going to be tough. The one at home, I can see them easily win, but the game in Tempe, I believe that's where Arizona plays, is going to be tough. So if they can get that one, man, if they come into the game against USC, if they're, what is that, 2, 6, 8-2, they'd be 8-2 coming into the USC game. Hey, you will take that any day. Giving a chance to go 9-2, potentially then beating Cal, going 10-2. Whoa. I mean, and that's I think that's 2 conference losses. So they would most likely be out of the Pac-12 race, but still great year for Chip Kelly, considering they were replacing DTR and Charbonnet. So, hey, man, you'll take this year for sure, especially because the defense looks dominant. Man, that Lynn, they need to lock him down for at least another year or 2 and find his, a protege under him too, because this defense is solid. If you don't know about their defense, man, it is a dominant defense. Okay. USC Cal 50-49. What a barn burner. Like back and forth. USC was down several times in this game. It was remarkable how much they had to come back, and they did. And you know what? They could have packed it in. This is a team that is almost out of like every thing conceivable. They're potentially out of the Pac-12 championship race. Well, they only have 1 loss, so they're still kind of in it. They're technically probably out of the playoff race. Caleb Williams, Heisman hopes may be gone, but they kept coming back. And he didn't have an amazing game, but he still had a really good game. 369, 2 TDs. They also, what is it? He also had 2 touchdowns on the ground, so he had 4 total TDs. Marshawn Lloyd, I mean, this kid is a stud. 2 TDs, 150 yards. This kid is such a great running back. I don't know why he's not like just the main back. I know they want other guys out there, but still, he is a stud. Receiving wise, they had really good numbers, and Marshawn Lloyd had more yards on receiving as well. He had 72 receiving yards. So it's just great day all around offensively. But then again, it's the defense that's really been the problem for USC. Just they gave up 527 yards to a 3-5 Cal team. I don't know. I don't know how they give up 6 of 14 third downs and then also 2 of 5 on fourth down. So technically they converted on 8 of 14 opportunities to get first downs, which that is not good. That's not going to win you games. 11 penalties, and they forced Cal into 4 turnovers and still allowed them to score 49 points. Just crazy. I'm amazed that they won this game. The one thing that I will say, though, it seems like when the defense really does need to make a stop on, they've a couple of times now on 2-point conversions, they, raise up and they get the stop. So I will say that is something, but the rest of it is terrible because they were just running wild on them. I mean, the Cal had like so many opportunities to the just wide open holes. The Jaden Ott for Cal had 153 yards on the ground. Just, I mean, he was like, it would, like the seas would part and he was just boom, just up. Like he was at least one 50-yard rush. And just, it was just, man, I don't know how USC won this game. I really don't, considering how they were down by multiple scores twice and still somehow came back. And credit to Lincoln Riley for getting them ready to play, to come back in this, because they could have easily just, taken down their tent and said, we're done for the year and this is it. But no, Caleb Williams said, man, I'm going to keep playing. And they got the win, and we'll see what happens the rest of the year because they have a really tough schedule. They have Washington, Oregon, UCLA next 3 weeks. So I might go to the Washington game. I don't know. I know we're going to Disneyland that day, so we probably won't go, which is a shame because I haven't been to a USC game yet this year. But I think I might go to the UCLA USC game in LA because that'll be the weekend before I go to Florida for Thanksgiving in the FSU Florida game. Okay, moving on. Speaking of FSU, blowout. There's not really much to say. This Wake Forest team is terrible. I mean, if you want to talk about it, Wake Forest is they've beaten Vanderbilt, Elon, Old Dominion, and Pitt. Like, that's their victories. They're not a good team. They got smoked by Virginia Tech, smoked by Georgia Tech. They're just not good. And, it's, I don't know, like, how do you get impressed by Florida State when they're like, by the end of the second quarter, by halftime, the game's basically over. I mean, Griffiths was so inaccurate. He had no pocket awareness, was constantly getting pressured and like constantly not escaping that pressure, was just like running into the pressure. And then inaccuracy was through the roof. I think he was like 1 for 10 at one point. And Florida State, made some plays. Keon Coleman looked good. Like I've said, I am not doubting that Coleman is a solid player. Travis had a lot of numbers, largely to do with one, a long reception by Benson where it was a short play out to the side, which easily should have been tackled. There was like 4 defenders coming by and they all like just completely miss, and he just runs wild. So it's like maybe a run for, or a catch for like 10 yards turns into a 80-yard catch. So it kind of inflates Jordan's numbers there. I'd like to see his air yards in this one. They're probably pretty low, but you know what? Whatever, man. Like, this is just this team. They don't play anybody. Pitt is a terrible team next week as well. They have North Alabama 2 weeks later. Their only real 2 games probably of the entire season are one against Miami and then 2 against Florida in Gainesville. That's really it, because Clemson is obviously not as good. as we thought, and they still had a chance to beat them. And LSU really shot themselves in the foot. So that was it. Like those two opportunities in Miami and Florida, that's it the entire year. The rest of the teams are terrible. Riley Leonard for Duke was hurt. If he's not hurt, I totally agree that that would have been a good game and a quality game for Florida State to have won. But they probably wouldn't have won that game if Riley Leonard was healthy. So, all right, moving on. West Virginia, UCF. West Virginia just smokes them in the second half. It was closer at halftime. It was like 17 to 14. Sorry, 17 to 14 at half. And then West Virginia just puts it to them, and they were up 41-21 into the fourth, and UCF gets a late garbage time touchdown. But Plumlee, 3 interceptions. They also had a fumble loss as well. Just a terrible game by them. I mean, they did convert a lot of third downs, but, you know, they just couldn't score enough because West Virginia was definitely moving the ball quite a bit. West Virginia had 450 total and 286 on the ground, which really is the difference because they were gashing UCF, and UCF's defense is not very good. And that's, as much as they want to complain about the offense for UCF, their defense is terrible. I'm like, you're not going to win many games if your defense can't stop anybody. And a lot of these Big 12 teams can score points. And it's been evident all year long against UCF that they've been scored on. So West Virginia gets the win, and UCF still does not have a conference win. Hey, welcome to the Power 5, UCF. Okay, speaking of Big 12, Oklahoma, Kansas. I can't remember if I called this upset or not. I'm going to have to look back. I might even, if I get a chance to add a little old clip to this, I might maybe be like, hey, look at this type thing, you know? And, but anyway, so Oklahoma back and forth with Kansas. They were up 21-7 at one point. Looked like they were about to roll, and then Kansas just kept coming back, man. I will say this, that I thought Jalen Daniels was a big reason for Kansas success, but Jason Bean is really good. He had 2 interceptions, but for him, I mean, he's still also like he's not just exclusively a passer. He's a really good rusher as well. And he had 62 yards on the ground and a TD on the ground, but they were just, you know, gashing them running wise, 225 on the ground. And, you know, they didn't convert many third downs, but they made a lot of plays. They both had multiple turnovers. They had 3 each, but, you know, Oklahoma, we thought they were going to be in the mix for the playoff. They beat Texas. That was their one big victory. Now they have a loss against a Kansas team in, I believe, Topeka. No, where's Kansas's home stadium? Yeah, I don't remember where Kansas's home stadium is. But Kansas, you know, this team is a surprise team that has done quite well throughout the year. They only have 2 losses, 6-2, you know, with 1 loss, I believe, in conference play. Yes. No, wait. No, 2 losses in conference play because they lost to Oklahoma State and Texas. So it'll be tougher to get in the mix for Big 12 stuff, but definitely a team to look out for because the rest of their schedule is not that difficult. Iowa State, Texas Tech, Kansas State, and Cincinnati. The Kansas State game is obviously difficult. It's a rivalry game at Kansas, so there's a chance that they could easily win that one. So they could end up being 10-2, which, man, I don't think, because last year was obviously there was a lot of hype around Kansas because their big start and how bad they had been for years. But if they can get to 10-2 this year, whew, man, that is remarkable. That would be great. But yeah, again, a huge loss for Oklahoma really hurts their playoff chances. If they win out, they have a really good shot at getting there, but they got to win out, and they have tough games. Let's see. Oklahoma has West Virginia, Oklahoma State, BYU, and TCU. None of those are easy games. So, yeah, it's a tough route for Oklahoma there. We'll see. We don't know. I mean, it's a long ways to go. It's a long season. Tough November. November is definitely where, teams prove their moxie for sure. But final score of this one is 38-33. Kansas wins. Okay, moving on. BYU, Texas. I would have thought BYU would have put up a bigger fight here, but Texas wins pretty convincingly. BYU never really put a scare into Texas. Texas was constantly forcing turnovers from BYU, and that was really the big difference there. I know it was only they had one more turnover BYU did than Texas, but still it seemed like their momentum was getting killed by these turnovers. And Texas really didn't put up a lot of huge numbers as far as yardage, but they were able to convert those short fields into scores, and they win 35-6. And I will say that Malik Murphy looked pretty good. He had a pick, but he looked pretty good for backup duty. And, Ewers, just rest up, dude. Just wait until the end of the year because you guys have a lot of tough games as well. Kansas State next week, TCU, Iowa State, Texas Tech. The Kansas State game is the most difficult game. I can see them going at least 3-1, but then again, the Kansas State game is in Austin, so there's a chance that they could easily win that game just because of being home and a lot of hype around it being a top 25 matchup. Okay, next game, Notre Dame Pitt. I didn't really watch this game, and I didn't even see the highlights. I knew it was going to be bad. Pitt is not a very good team. I don't know how they beat Louisville. I really don't. I even saw the highlights of that game, and I'm still mystified that happened. But Notre Dame wins easily 58-7. Sam Hartman goes off. He did have 2 picks, which, that is something there. But the rest of the team looked really good. Estime had another big day. He had 114 on the ground. And even Notre Dame's backup had a really good day. So, yeah, just a blowout, never close. I mean, it was 17-0 at half, and then Notre Dame scores 27 straight points in the third. So good for them. Still a very slim chance of the playoff. They'd have to have a lot go their way. A lot of teams lose, and their schedule is by far the best out of anyone because they've played Ohio State, they've played Duke, they've played Clemson, they've played USC, or they'll play Clemson, and they played USC. So that's 4 really good teams. And yeah, so they have if they beat Clemson next week, they should win out because they play Wake Forest and Stanford. And 10-2 Notre Dame with that schedule, I don't know, man. The reason I would want to see it is because of Sam Hartman and nothing else to do with the rest of the team. The rest of the team is good, but the real reason is the elevation of a very good quarterback. And it's like, I would want to see it in the playoff because you never know coming in to the playoff what would happen with a quarterback like that. And I just wish they had beaten that Louisville team because, I mean, it was a good game. Louisville definitely deserved to win. They were definitely the better team there. But, if Notre Dame had just won that game, they would be right in the mix. They should have beat Ohio State. I don't know how they lost that game. They should have beat them. Okay, Oregon, Utah. It could have been the game of the day, but it was a blowout as well. This one was 35-6. Oregon wins convincingly. It was never close. I mean, Utah's offense was just putrid. But I will say Oregon's defense looked very good. And that may be the caveat here where it's like last week USC's defense, kind of couldn't keep up with Utah's offense, even though Utah's offense was putrid for the most part. And this time it's like, no, Oregon's defense is sound. They took it to them. Barnes had 136 yards and 2 interceptions, almost had around 50% completion percentage. Just a tough day for everyone for Utah, and Oregon gets the win. And you know what? Oregon moving on 7-1. They have a lot of tough games. They've got this USC game at home, which is it should be something that they take advantage of. They've got Cal at home. They should win that one. Arizona State on the road, which is tough. Like I said, they're plucky. And then really the last game of the year, Oregon State, Oregon. But that game's in Autzen Stadium, so you never know. 3 games at home, and at the end of the year, whoever made their schedule was really, really favoring them, because that's amazing that they got that road for the end of the year. So they have a real shot of finishing up the year at a good mark, and they could go 11 wins. And then if they get into the Pac-12 championship, they have a real shot at getting in the playoffs. So we'll see. Duke, Louisville. I didn't watch a single highlight of this because I honestly thought that Leonard wasn't going to play and then his backup was going to play. But Leonard played, and he still is not healthy because the numbers bear that out, and they couldn't do anything. And that also honestly proves that Florida State is not as good as we think, because Duke got smoked 23-0, while Duke was very much in the game against Florida State the week before. So again, Louisville wins 23-0. I wish I could have watched highlights. I had to eliminate some games because I didn't have much time, because I woke up at 6 a.m. today, and it just we're going to see the movie, and it's like I had to hurry this stuff up, so I just couldn't watch this one, and I apologize. 23-0 there, Louisville. Washington, Stanford, back and forth game. This is a really good game. Stanford obviously is not the best team. They're able to move the ball on offense, which, granted, I'll say Washington's defense needed to play better here, and it should have been more of a blowout. But, Penix does what he needs to do, has a solid day, 369 through the air, 4 TDs, did have a pick. Polk had a bunch of great catches, 2 TDs, 148. Adunze had another catch for a touchdown. He had 89 yards. This Washington team has probably the best victory all year, beating that Oregon team. So I will say right now, it would be hard pressed to keep them out of the playoff selection coming up on Tuesday. So I'd have to have Washington. You probably have to have Georgia. You probably have to have Michigan, and you probably have to have a 4th team. I'd say probably Ohio State, just because Ohio State has played Notre Dame, Penn State, and Wisconsin, and Notre Dame on the road and Wisconsin on the road. Florida State has only really played Clemson on the road, and that's it. They haven't played any really tough opponents on the road. So I would have to say that Ohio State has a better resume right now than Florida State. So that's the 4. So I got Washington, Georgia, Ohio State, and Michigan. I don't really know order wise. I don't like, I guess I would probably put Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Washington 3, and Michigan 4. That's what I would say. And last 2 out, probably, I would say Texas at this point, and probably Oregon and then Texas are the last 2 out. Okay. But Washington wins pretty convincingly. And then not pretty convincingly. It was close. Sorry. I was getting out of the playoff talk back into the game. But no, the Washington wins in a close game. They had to score late to really separate themselves. But hey, you know what? These close games on the road, conference games on the road, you just got to win. That's all that matters. And they do. 8-0. They have a really tough road. They've got USC. They've got Utah at home, Oregon State on the road in Corvallis, where teams go to die, and then Washington State at the end. That's a murderer's row right there. USC has only 2 losses. Utah only has 2 losses. Oregon State with 2 losses. Washington State's the wheels kind of falling off on Washington State, but still, just a really tough road for Washington to try to get in. At least they have a 1-game wiggle room here, because if they lose 1 game, they still have the advantage on Oregon. And the rest of these teams all have 2 losses, so they are pretty much in good footing. USC only has 1 conference loss, so it's better for USC, but I think they still have potential here to lose 1 game, Washington, and still get in the mix for 1, definitely Pac-12 championship, and then 2 playoff. Okay, moving on. Tennessee, Kentucky, interesting game, back and forth. Tennessee scored late to go up ahead by 9. Devin Leary had by far his best game. Like the whole year that I've watched him play, this was his best game, and it's not even close. Ray Davis, definitely not a good game. 16 of 42, which is, I didn't know his real name is Ramon. I thought it was just Ray Davis. But no, Jalen Wright had a great game for Tennessee, and Samson, killer on that last drive. Just huge runs, huge touchdown. Tennessee gets the win. I'm really only looking at this game because I'm liking to see what happens with Tennessee going forward, especially what they do against Mizzou and Georgia, which I think they can beat Mizzou. I don't know if they can beat Georgia. It's in Knoxville, so there's a chance. I think they have Georgia before they have Mizzou. No, they have Mizzou afterward, or Mizzou first, and it's on the road. So, that's tough. That's a tough 2 games, Mizzou and then Georgia. Whew. Because they should beat UConn easily, but Mizzou on the road, that'll be an interesting game. I want Mizzou to lose that game because the next week Florida plays them, so I want like Mizzou to have lost to Georgia and Mizzou, or to Tennessee. So then it sets up them coming off 2 straight losses, and it's like a little bit easier for Florida maybe to take advantage of that situation. But we'll see. Ohio State, Wisconsin. Interesting game. It was back and forth for a little bit, and then Ohio State kind of scores that late touchdown to really go up 24-10, but final score 24-10. Kyle McCord had 2 interceptions. Wisconsin's offense looks putrid. No surprise there. But Ohio State looked really good. Marvin Harrison Jr. had really good catches. One of the touchdowns was like a corner, like foot down, like just remarkable play. Travion Henderson had a really good game. This Ohio State team just keeps winning. They outgained them 407 yards to 259. Just, they do the things to win. They had a lot of turnovers, which could have cost them, but it didn't, and they're able to get out of this game pretty unscathed. So we'll see what happens going forward. They don't really have that many hard games left besides the Michigan game. They should easily beat Rutgers, easily beat Michigan State, easily beat Minnesota. So that game at the last week of the season is going to set up everything, because it determines who goes to the Big Ten championship, and potentially both of them could get in again like they had last year, but I don't know if they'll do that again. We'll see. UNC, Georgia Tech. Tech wins 46-42, upset. North Carolina was once undefeated 2 weeks ago, now with consecutive losses to 1 Virginia and now Georgia Tech. Haynes King looked great in this game. Drake May played well as well. It's just, there was no defense in this game. It was just back and forth, huge runs all over the place, huge plays left and right. I mean, I'm looking at the scoring plays: 42 yards, 35 yards, 35 yards, 70, like just massive plays on both sides of the ball. It was back and forth. Tech went up. Actually, Tech was never up until the very end. Oh, my bad. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, and just North Carolina was keeping pace, trying to stay ahead of them. And then it was like Tech, just in that fourth quarter, outscores them 21-7. And just, man, 635 yards for Tech. You got to fire Gene Chizik after that game. That is terrible. I mean, Tech is, I know they're 4-4, and they do have victories against Miami and now North Carolina, but they lost to BC. and they lost to Bowling Green. Ugh, just I don't know. This Tech team, I don't know what to make of them. They seem to be better than years past, but I would like to see what they do. One against Virginia and then two against Clemson here in the next 2 weeks. And they have Georgia at home, so we'll see. Okay, these last two I need to do really quick because I got to go. But Oregon State upset against Arizona. I'm telling you, man, this Arizona team is plucky, man. They're now at 5-3, 27-24 wins this game. This was like, fourth quarter, I think it was like 10-13. And then Oregon State was scoring a little bit. And then Arizona just put it to them there near the end. And Noah, I don't know how to say his name, Fafita, 275, 3 TDs through the air. He's good, man. He's just very solid quarterback. He had one interception, but only 7 incompletions. They definitely, this is not a team that's like just going to roll over now. And they have UCLA, like I said, they should beat Colorado. They have a tough Utah team, and then Arizona State. So, whew, like Arizona, watch out for this team, man. And it's what's his face. I think it's the guy that used to work for New England. So, last one real quick. Air Force wins 30-13. Larrier only throws 7 passes for 32 yards, and they easily get the win. What they rush for 261 on the ground. Yeah, just this team doesn't turn the ball over, runs right through everyone, and plays really good defense. And they, Colorado State moved the ball, but this Air Force team, man, there's something about them, man. They're very plucky. Very plucky. And this is a key word I've been saying all day, plucky. But yeah, 8-0. And they have Army next week. They should win. Hawaii on the road, tough, just for the travel. And then UNLV and Boise State. So we'll see. If they end up undefeated, you could see them in a big a New Year's Six Bowl. But that is the show. That's it. I got to go. My name is Chris McLean. You can catch us at haterradio.com, at hater_radio for all the socials except for Facebook and YouTube. Facebook is Hater Radio CFB. YouTube is at Hater Radio. Haterradio1@gmail.com for our email. Ian has his socials, which I don't know, but you can follow him. And that's it, man. Enjoy Halloween. Happy Halloween. And I'll talk to you guys on Wednesday. All right. See ya.